Om Shanti, everyone. How many times did we say Om Shanti since morning? Do you see the quality of the Om Shanti changing every time you say it, right? So a lot has been said about influences, especially last night, and I was lucky to catch up on Canon Casson, Canon Bhai's take on it. And of course, it still comes back to what do we have inside of us that's more subtle than even what's happening out there that we are constantly exposed to. And we have to be protected from. And the image that was coming to me was, as I was going back to my training in pediatrics and, childbirth, when the baby comes out and you see the baby coming out first time, some of them, of course, their eyes would open immediately and some not. But I would often have this thought that time, what this baby is coming in for, in terms of how much out there. So far, the world was just within the walls of the womb, right? And here the whole world is in front, and how that little baby has to handle all of that. But I was also thinking, which is the bigger world? Is it the world out there? Or is it the world that we already have created or come with inside of us? Knowing now especially that we are souls with tremendous, tremendous energy and potential. So is the world out there greater, stronger, bigger? Or is our world inside more powerful, stronger, more equipped? And so something to think about, especially as we enter into a spiritual life, a spiritual journey. This is a totally new world, right? We are not so used to it. We're always used to that world out there. We're not used to the three fingers pointing to the self. And so we went through all these layers of influences, I think. And I was thinking perhaps a very simple way to look at it, at the various influences that we carry with us, starting from this morning when we heard about our thoughts and feelings. And again, I was going back to this baby. The baby doesn't have thoughts, I think, but the baby immediately picks up on something, has feelings. So that world of feelings immediately comes into existence. There's no lack period, I think. Even before, of course, the baby comes, it's almost in the womb, right? There's a feeling already. And that feeling is already influencing the way the body is formed, the way the organs are formed, the way the childbirth even happens, so many things it influences. So yes, what I think, what I feel, and it's funny, it's my thoughts and it's my feelings, and yet it comes back to me. It's not even someone else's thinking and someone else's feeling. I may say, okay, it started there, but then again, I picked up on it. And it still is influencing whether I like something, whether I don't like something, whether I prefer someone, whether I, have a set particular aversion for something or have an attraction to something, but it still has that influence, isn't it? And so many of these things are just subconscious. They're not at a conscious level. I'm not aware of them. And then, of course, as we grow up, the way I am looked at, the way I'm talked to, the way I hear things, the way I pick up people's visions of me. And all of these things are very, very unconscious. I mean, we have no say in it, but we have picked up so much already into the soul. And I think a big part of the influence, at least in what I have observed over these few brief years of meditation practice, spiritual life, is when I would sit and remember something, for example, how immediately it would change the way I feel. Someone, something, someplace, I remember, and immediately the feelings changed. And this is why perhaps they say that they can tell who you're remembering through your face. Your face is a very good reflection of what or who you're remembering, whether it's a pleasant memory or whether it's an unpleasant memory, or what is it that's being triggered in the soul as you remember something. And we hear this oftentimes in our lessons here. Remember me. Of course, these are godly versions. We hear it being handed down from that divine source of knowledge. And oftentimes it's about remembering just light, right? Remembering light and not to get distracted, not to get attracted to any other memories that may be pulling on your intellect. And oftentimes I would see the importance, the value of something like that. Because what I remember is a big influence on me. Because what I'm doing through remembrance is I'm connecting with that event, that place, those words perhaps that were said to me, or the face that, the way it was. And it's immediately evoking those same kind of feelings that I did at that time, good or bad, both. But this habit of remembering something that is a constant source is a very, very stabilizing force I found in my life, that no matter what other influences come in and go out, but if I create a little habit of remembering that constant source of positivity, positive energy, of love, of peace, it's almost like a nurturance. It's like I need to know how to nurture the self, the soul. And then, of course, our influences are on what is not only what I remember, but what is my experience of remembering, or, when I remember something, what was my experience like? So that experience whole thing comes back to mind as well. So these are all the layers of influences that we have created over life. lifetime, and perhaps lifetimes for some of us, because none of these things just dissolve like that, right? I mean, they're just kind of layer upon layer upon layer. And many of them are good experiences, and some of them not so uplifting. And from time to time, when one feels, that today I'm just not feeling so great. Why is that? Nothing happened to me. I didn't do anything. I didn't have a bad experience of any kind. But it just so happens that I'm not having a good day, or I'm not feeling so great today. And I've come to believe that some of these unconscious or subconscious influences surface without our knowing even, because so much of what we carry in the soul is at that level, right? What else influences? What else shapes us? What else molds us from the time we are born? Of course, the way we are treated, the way we are nurtured. But also, I think a lot has to do with what we pick up and learn, either formally or informally. Right? Formally, of course, education. What are we taught? What are we taught is important for life. And we carry those values, isn't it? And they kind of dictate, they inform us in terms of our major decisions in life, what I should be going for, where should I spend most of my time in, how should I direct my life, all those things. So what have I learned along the way? What are my beliefs? What do I believe in? Right? Beliefs that more or less we have come to believe, that those beliefs are normal beliefs. We don't even question those beliefs sometimes. And how they kind of influence the way we look at certain aspects of life. Sorrow, for example, sadness, for example. What's our belief about sorrow and happiness? Right? Who creates sorrow for me? Is it that person, that one who said that, this one who said this, right? Or am I responsible for all my experiences and feelings? So what am I? What's my belief system around that? I think that's a big influence, isn't it, in terms of our overall experience of life, or even day-to-day experience of life. And most importantly, I think, what do I know that influences my life in a positive way, in a consistently positive way? Again, I would look at little children, no, babies, and I would always, see them so happy and so joyful. And my first question would be, what does this little one know that I don't know, that he's so happy about? Or what does he not know? What does he not know that she's so happy about? So these are all, thoughts that I was having as I was thinking about these kind of subtler, unseen, unknown influences, and how important it is for us to transform all of that into influences that can really positively direct us. And this is why perhaps in the Brahma Kumaris, we start with knowing. What do I know about myself that can influence me positively? As we were speaking this morning, right? What is it that I know about myself that I can't question, I can't doubt? I know it for a fact, and I know it's going to come to my rescue no matter what. It's my most natural attributes that I come with. Is it love? It's peace. It's joy. It's that divine wisdom that I've been gifted with. And so it puts a whole different twist on my experiences of life, even if there is influence, but it's always a positive influence. It's always directing me in that direction of, okay, something happened, wasn't supposed to be, but I don't take the blame for it, or I don't blame someone for it, but I can kind of treat it in its own right and say, it was a moment of not being aligned with truth, for example, but doesn't mean that this person is like this, or I am like this, or, we can make allowances, we can let go, we can move on, we can forgive. So I think it's a very important aspect of knowing life in its full form, who we are, what's our original nature, even though it might have been, deformed a little bit, but can I go back to that original nature, directing my mind, using my divine intellect in that way? Can I emerge? This word came out so many times from all of you. Emerge, emerge. I love it, because what's emerging is the deepest, what we call the sanskars, right? The characteristics that we have kept to ourselves or hidden for a long time. So how can it emerge more? So in terms of, I was really appreciating, actually, again, one of the concepts that we, keep very close to our heart, and we all know this, that the most formative years of our life is very young childhood, right? And a lot of who we are is based on what has happened maybe at that time. But not to hold that against us, our growth, but to relive that childhood, but as a soul, as a child of the divine. To be totally letting yourself experience what it means to be in that, almost like it's being in a divine lap of God. What does it mean to experience that pure love? And again, not just in a spiritual way, but even in a physical way. For example, when you come here and you get all this wonderful treatment, it's the way that God would treat you, right? So it's not only about the soul, but the soul with the body really feeling so rightful over God's love, God's care, and also the fact that we think that's not just enough to say love, love, but to understand that love, to actually learn that love in an experiential way also. Which is why many times we would refer to God as our teacher too, giving us all those teachings of life, which we have forgotten, the basics of life that we have forgotten about, that we are pure, our love is originally pure. There's no need to get attached. There's no need to be possessive. There's no need to hold on. Just pure free love. And how to do that. So how do we kind of create our lifestyle or our, not even lifestyle, forget about lifestyle, but just even a day-to-day practice of incorporating that kind of nurturance that really reinforces our original nature of love and peace. So how do we kind of, I mean, we cannot say we can be, renunciates, we don't want anything to do with the world. We're not going to be in peace village forever. Of course, we're going to be in the midst of crowd, people, news, this, that, whatever. But can we still stay protected? And the protection, I believe, comes from really allowing ourselves to dive deep into this knowing who we are and remembering who we are. Knowing where our support comes from and remembering and experiencing that support in a practical way also from the divine. Okay. So it's almost like I was saying, to relive that childhood. For a long time, it did not, I would think about this aspect of being a child of God, for example. Why is it so important? But it made so much sense because we need to erase so much of what has been left in the soul through our physical childhoods or physical experiences or physical relationships or whatever. And so to really experience all the virtues and all the wisdom, all the powers in their original form, to really connect to the source in that way, I feel is very important. And what does that mean on a day-to-day basis? Day-to-day basis. Because you're here for 2 days, 3 days. And then, of course, I know many of you have your own practices also. But also I'm thinking that the power of choice that we all have, to really use and exercise that power of choice more and more and more regularly. And I think the traffic control is a very good example of that we have made a choice at this time, at this particular 5 o'clock, 5:30, whatever time it is, to say stop, break. Because remember, our own thinking probably is our worst influence, right? Like you heard beautifully that, it might have happened just once, but I've thought about it so many times. It has magnified, so much. So how does that happen? Because we allow ourselves to go in circles. So somewhere we have to say, no, enough is enough. And it doesn't have to be something even, negative, but even if something mundane, but if we go over it again and again, repeatedly, it's draining. It's draining on the mind. So I believe this is one of the gifts that God gives us: traffic control, stop, red light, enough is enough. Or you can say break, apply the brake. And it's a very beautiful practice too, of applying the brake, meaning that it's a safety device. It's not something I'm doing for someone else, but I absolutely have to brake to avoid the accident. So it takes a little bit of discipline, of course, but I think it goes a long way in terms of just cutting down on our own influence of our own sanskars, our own thoughts, on how we operate internally. So, telling me something. Traffic control. And definitely some kind of a consistent practice to deepen what I know about myself and about my relationship with the divine on a regular basis.